it's another episode of OTC Unplugged, where we introduce some of our main members to you and get to know them a little bit different. Today, I have a wonderful opportunity to talk to Charl Buys. Charl Buys is one of the OTC directors, a founding member as well of OTC, and he's also playing the role of financial director. Charl, welcome. Lovely to talk to you today.
Thanks, Wilmien. I appreciate it.
Charl, where are you today?
We at a place called the Eiland near Tzaneen. It's a hot water spring with a nice swimming pool. So we like to swim for us, exercise, and we do roughly a kilometer or more every morning.
I cannot comprehend swimming a kilometer every morning. And currently in Natal, it's cold. Is it cold there too?
No, I'm short sleeves, and you see, so it's already quite nice outside. This morning it was 10 degrees or 8 degrees early morning, but now it's 15, 16, and it will be 28 today. So it's a very nice weather around here. But you guys in Sasolburg have the winter championships, pool championships, if I remember correctly. It was there in the past always.
The days I worked there before we moved to Natal, it was there, but I'm not a swimmer, Charl. I think I will, that's not one of my talents. Lots, so I'll stay far away. But Sasolburg gets cold, but we've moved to Natal. And I also thought it's going to be warm here because we have family in Tzaneen, so I know how warm it can get there. But we are just outside of, in Natal, away from the ocean, and it's colder here than you would imagine that it can be. Yeah, I never thought I'm going to get cold in Natal.
If the humidity goes up slightly and the temperature down, you can feel it.
Absolutely, yeah. That was the intro. I didn't know what I'm going to do differently. Tell me about Charl in his early years.
Which early years?
0 to 10. Let's start there.
Okay, born in Standerton, just south of Secunda, matriculated in, 72. Married to my school sweetheart. We started going out when she was still 15 years old, and it's still going strong.
I've met your sweetheart, and she's still sweet. So many years later, I can attest to that. Okay.
Yeah, we had quite an interesting life in the sense that I went to Tux to do chemical engineering, and she went to RAU at that stage. After school, it was but for me, 4 years for her, 5 years for me.
And it's a distance, eh? It's a distance between that, and you survived.
Yeah, we did.
And then after school, you said you went to Pretoria University to study chemical engineering.
Yeah, and wrote my last subject on the Thursday and got married on the Saturday.
How were you able to concentrate?
With difficulty.
That are some discipline, and it's a question I wanted to ask you later, that maybe I must ask that question to you now, Charl. Because throughout your life, you had to make difficult decisions. With the positions that you handled in OTC, you need to make difficult decisions sometimes. How do you go about making these? That must have been a difficult decision, or maybe it was an easy decision. But how do you go about making good decisions? Because that decision was a good one. It lasted you many years.
Well, with the help of the Lord, you can do that. It's hard work, focus, and help from above.
Lovely to hear you say that, because often in corporate, people don't want to accept that necessarily as part of the decision making. And Charl, what subjects at varsity did you hate?
I think I wrote, we had a subject called Stactelia, strengths of materials type of thing. And if I remember correctly, I wrote that 5 times before I passed. So it was not the easiest for me.
My most hateful one is statistics. I had to help my daughter the other day with statistics with her matric, and I told her, please try not to ask me any questions about statistics. That's really the one that I did it, I passed it, but it came with a lot of effort.
Well, some work like that. Our daughter is also a chemical engineer, and I think she wrote 1 sub in her whole life, and that to her was traumatic. I did many more than that.
I believe in repetition, though. Hey, we do a lot of memorization work now with the children, and I find repetition. There's something to say for repetition. You'll never ever forget it, even though you want.
If you do it enough times, you still forget it. Ask me about strengths of materials.
Okay, so that one was really an Achilles heel almost.
Yeah.
And from there you moved to after you studied?
Oh, that was quite a hectic time. Started at ISCO in the pilot plant.
Okay.
Did the sink float analysis for ISCO Grote Geluk mine, which was located on the farm Fripp. So I can remember that very clearly. And did all of that sink float analysis for the coking coal beneficiation plant. After 6 months, went to Newcastle, worked at the steel plant, and then 2 years at what we then called PV Botha and Sons, military service. So we were married before military service. Tia followed shortly after, was at Kroonstad for the whole 2 years. First year I did course, and second year I was an instructor officer. And back to Newcastle, and then Secunda, where I spent most of my life.
And in Secunda, you worked for Sasol?
Yeah, all the time. Went to Sasolburg for 7 years at Sasol Technology, manager for Sasol Technology Engineering, and then back to Secunda.
So how do one move from the steel industry to a petrochemical industry? What motivated that move?
Quite easy. At that stage, ISCO had a whole system. You could buy a house, and we were in a real hurry to buy a house. So we bought a plot in Newcastle and applied for a loan to start building. And then they said we in a queue, and we will get our loan in about 3 or 4 years' time. That was very against my planning. So we said, no, this is not going to work. And as the law dictated at that stage, the recruiting agent from Sasol phoned and said, we have a job for you. I asked, where? No, he can't tell me. Which company are you recruiting for? I can't tell you. You first have to fill in certain forms. So that was
interesting.
81. Yeah, in 81. So got the job at Secunda as a process engineer on the what then was called oil workup Sasol 2, the refinery section of Sasol 2. And we moved to Sasol in Secunda in 82.
And did that feel like you are learning everything from new? Because the flotation work that you've done before, or the other work that you've done there versus a refinery, the technology is way different. Did it feel to you you start over, or was there stuff that you felt you could transfer?
Production is production, and I, first of all, training officer in the army is also a production unit. You produce trained people. Production in steel plant, supporting the production people, and then went to the refinery, supporting the production people with technical advice. So although the technologies differ, one training people, the other one making steel, the other one making petrol and diesel, supporting production is a certain way of looking at life. And that was the same. So I found found it quite rewarding, all three of them, because you support people that make that real stuff.
That is very interesting how you bring production back. I'm thinking very hard now. How you bring production in everything. Is there other aspects in your life that has nothing to do with technical, where you also find that you are producing things, that you manage it in a way that you would have managed a production line?
Well, actually, most of the things in life is producing something. Whether you're dominantly producing a sermon or you doing what you guys are now doing and producing a YouTube video, that's production.
No, it's very true, because in my life I've realized for me it's process. I'm totally into a process. And in the beginning, my process is messy as I figure it out, and the same when I did research, also in a pilot facility. It's messy in the beginning. You don't know where you start. There's so much information, trying to sort out through the chaos, don't know what the research is going to go, but eventually I get a rhythm. So it was so interesting in my life that I saw, whether it's a video, whether it is coaching, whether it is engineering, I found a rhythm that I go through a chaotic phase and then it starts making sense, which I can apply in all areas in my life. And it feels to me you do something similar with the production theme.
Yeah, well, production is a process. I mean, it's a production process, so it is all processes. And I always said when I was back in Secunda, and there's a fairly large production unit, that one, that you have two factories running in parallel. The one is producing molecules and the other one is producing electrons. Mm-hmm. The management system, the bookkeeping system, all of that, which is automated in SAP nowadays, it's also a production unit. It is just producing information by moving electrons.
I love that. I want to think about that a little bit. I love that. I knew you're going to challenge me more than I can challenge you in this interview, Charl. I love that analogy. But while you were talking, I also think maybe your stapelier was also, I produce something, it doesn't work, I go back and I try to get it doesn't work. And don't we find that in production as well? It doesn't work, we just recycle it back, we rework it until we get it to work.
Yeah, and the other one that was to me was a real learning experience in production is who you have to listen to. Because you have a problem in the plant and all the bright engineers come with all kinds of hypotheses, but the guy running the panel or the guy outside, he knows more. He doesn't know how necessary to translate that into engineering language, but he knows the plant. And you have to listen very carefully to what he's saying if you do fault finding.
So yeah, I gather you respect even anyone, no matter their position, no matter their education, because everyone has something of value that they can bring to the table. I have a story. While I was in research and development in Sasolburg, I did some work in glass equipment, but specialized glass equipment, and we had these glass blowers. And I would always go to them. I always break things. I wasn't careful enough. So then I will break this small little piece or adjust this thing for me to do a little bit of that. And I would always go and talk to them, talk about their families, and I haven't spent hours of Sasol time talking to them, but every time I go there, I just paused 5 minutes. How are you? What do you think? How is it going? And you know how it paid off? Because my colleague, that was much more dynamic than I could have thought to be, complained because his glass work took months to finish and mine took a week. And I realized those 5 minutes that I spent with those guys that might not be seen as important as the engineers around me. And those 5 minutes paid off because now people with very, very good experience that can help us and we can, we gain so much more by just showing them the respect, eh?
That's very true. I believe that very strongly.
Oh, so we've studied, You've worked on iron, or steel, you moved to chemicals and more in the production line of chemicals, but you didn't stay in Sasolburg. You moved to Secunda. But yeah, we didn't overlap too much in Sasolburg, or you were so high up in the hierarchy while I was still a junior engineer coming into the range. But I've also always heard the name Charl Buys, but I know there was a time you moved to Secunda. Tell us a little bit more about.
Well, I started off in Secunda. I worked there for quite a while. And then they had a problem at Sastic. JP.
Okay. The audio went down. I couldn't hear you. So maybe, I'm not sure whether else you could record it. So maybe we must just retake that.
Okay.
Moet ek weer vra of kan jy onthou wat ek gevra het?
Sure, the time in Sasolburg. But I have to start in Secunda to explain how I got to Sasolburg. So I'll start there just a moment. You see, I started working in Secunda, and I was at the refinery as an engineer. Then I got promoted to production and went out to water recovery, outside working the water recovery unit. And I spent quite some time there, then went back as the divisional manager production for the refinery, or the oil workup as it was called that stage, Sasol 2. Then Sastic had a problem. They were busy with old Dr. Fourie in R&D. Mm-hmm. He was busy developing the coker process to make anode-grade coke from the pitch that Sasol produced. Originally, Sasol sold the pitch to ISCO, to the blast furnaces. But that market started to be a problem because they were doing oil injection and all kinds of other stuff. And the price of the pitch was problematic. So Sasol decided to build the coker plant and to upgrade the pitch to anode-grade coke, which Alosat was willing to buy. And JP resigned just before the project kicked off, so asked me to go and help them out. I said, yes, I will do that. Went to Secunda Sastic and started off as lead process engineer on the job. Then went to Lummus in Bloomfield in New York to witness the R&D work there in the laboratory, and spent 3 months of my life there. Then the project went to Wilmien in the Netherlands, where the process design was done. And I also spent some time there, then back to the plant. The final design was done, and then I had to go to Japan because there was no operating plant in the Western world, only the one in Japan that worked on pitch. And I spent a week there on the plant. Now, the anode-grade coke or coker normally works in 24-hour cycles. Then you have to switch the drum because it's a batch process integration process. You've got the 2 drums going into the one. Then when it's full, you switch over to the other one and you drill out the coke to produce the coke from the pitch. And I spent a week there seeing how they do it, the operating procedures and stuff, and then had to come back to Secunda to train the guys and explain to them how this process will work. Then when it was finished, being built the plant, I was the commissioning manager for the plant, and the production team on 12-hour shifts, 2 guys on each job, because of the complexity of this manual batch process integration, which is not a normal procedure within the Sasol group of companies. And after that, I didn't have a job because the project was finished and my position in production was full. And lo and behold, there came the invitation to become the manager for Sastic engineering in Sasolburg. So that is how my life changed very quickly. And with no management experience in a technology company, I had to go to Tasselberg and run the engineering division there. It was a very rewarding time with an excellent team. We really enjoyed ourselves tremendously. Then back to Secunda, or Bram Clapp was then MD for Synfuels, and he felt that there was a management style change required in the gas circuit environment there. So he offered me the job, and I said, well, I'm actually a production man. This engineering was very nice, and I learned a lot. But then I went back to Secunda as a manager for the gas circuit area. And later I got promoted to general manager production for Synfuels.
Yeah, that is a mouthful, Charl. It just feels to me in your life, one thing led to another. One good thing led to another good thing. As you say, just out of the blue, this happened, and this one led to that one, and then led you back to Secunda. And I can imagine that you say that engineering was so different than production, but now the little bit I get to know you better, I can just see that you produce technologies while you were in Sustec. Produce the one technology after the other one, which is important. If you work a lot with technology, you can fall into this loop of just improving, and not to push them out of the system. And I think that was important when I was also in technology development, that don't only develop, get it to production, get it to further on. But there are a lot of questions I have based on what you've told me now. So you have been in the Netherlands for technology work, and there's another place that you also said there was more than one place in the world you went to do R&D, to observe.
Yeah, I was the resident engineer in Bloomfield, which is just across the river from New York City. I spent there three months of my life as a resident engineer in an R&D facility. That was quite new to me, doing nothing, just looking.
And it was interesting for me. I went to Houston for a few weeks also to observe piloting that I was involved in with Houston. And one always thinks, how does South Africa's engineering compare to the rest of the world's engineering? And when I was there, I didn't thought we compare worse. But what was your experience? How do you believe South African engineering compares to engineering in the rest of the world?
Well, what I did see in the Netherlands, for instance, is that they are very discipline specific. If a guy is a piping engineer, he's a piping engineer his whole life. And if he's a process development engineer, he's a process development engineer on certain technologies for his whole life. So they're very specialized, and you need about 20 people to do a job. Whereas in South Africa, after a few years of experience, 7-10 years for a process engineer, roughly speaking, he can do about 80% of any of the work the other guys do. So maybe not to depth, to the same detail, but absolutely the versatility of the engineers, South African engineers, much higher. We've got 3 kids, they're all engineers. 2 of them chemical.
Really? How did that happen?
Well, I don't know, but 2 of them are chemical and 1 is mechanical. And 2 chemical engineers are now in Australia, and the mechanical engineer is in Canada. But the application of South African engineers in Australia, they are sought after in all of those companies because they work. They don't have this 8-hour only and now I'm finished. In the Netherlands, those guys come 4:30. Doesn't matter what, if he's in a meeting or he's busy with a calculation, pen goes down, out he goes. It's a different mindset. South African guys will finish the job. They might complain a bit, but they will finish the job.
You know, and I see something similar in OTC that I've joined you guys a year and a half ago. I see the same thing there. We have a new project with one chemical that none of us have experienced with, but everyone just jump in and they say, it's okay, I can learn it. I understand production, I understand processes, I understand engineering, I have logical thinking. we can apply that to any technology coming our way. And then I see these people, a few of them, maybe for a month there's not a lot of work and it's okay, but then when the work comes, there's no question about how many hours are spent. So I see the same type of work ethic that you've explained now, even in this consultant company that we are working with for.
Yeah, but that to me was born in the 70s and 80s with the Sasol 2-3 project, because you have to do that. It came from the 50s, 55, Sasol 1, where nothing worked and it had to be fixed. Then the Sasol 2-3 project, where we all came from various places. None had the Sasol experience, except for the few guys that came from Sasolburg. But you have to make it work. And again, that thing is such a huge plant. You cannot have something down. So if something is down, everybody work together to get it up again. You worry later about contracts and things like that. That was the culture to a large extent in the 80s and early 90s, when I spent my more junior years in the organization. And it was a tremendous time. I think nowadays some of that culture is lost.
I hear you. But you, Charl, that must have been exciting to be part of Sasol 2 and 3 startup in Secunda. I mean, when I started working, it was almost an established plant. And we always said the process engineers get bored if nothing can go wrong. And I assume you never had a bored moment in your life.
Never.
But the experience you must have gained to solve all those problems.
And the main thing about that experience is it is lots of people working together. That solves problems. And not everybody on his own track, because most problems nowadays aren't discipline problems, they are interdiscipline problems. And it has to be solved with a group of people, not a single discipline solution.
True. I remember Sasol had times as well where they said we work in silos. We need to have a matrix structure that we work interdisciplinary, but it takes a special manager to be able to make it work. It's a great idea, but not all managers are able to make that work. So as a manager on your side, what advice can you give anyone to say, yes, you need to have sometimes the in-depth knowledge of a silo, but interdisciplinary problems critical. What is the advice you can get a manager who's currently struggling with that?
Well, strangely, I learned the solution to that, I think, in the army. Because I was in the engineering corps and we were all a bunch of graduates. So if I was a chemical engineer, I was in charge of people and go to the border, and now there's a civil engineering problem. If you try to solve it, chemical engineer, there's 0% chance with my strength of materials. But there's an experienced civil engineer in the troop. So you put the right guy in charge of a thing like that, and not the rank or position or anything. If any team, once the team gels, and you can ask that to the Springbok coach, is a much more formidable team than 15 players. So that is for interdiscipline, the most important thing is to get clarity of objectives and clarity of competence.
And listen, now, what I'm hearing you as well is I'm not on your rank, I'm going to listen to you and not accept you have all the answers, but at least you have the answers for this specific thing that one would like to solve.
Yeah, that Elmo Marshall, for instance, told me. That's what you're saying now.
I loved Elmo Marshall. As I mentioned to you, my last few years at Sasol, while he retired, but then he was my mentor, and I only had 2 sessions with him, but it was profound. It's one of those people that I'll never forget in my life, that had such a profound impact on not only my career, but who I am as a person. So tell me Elmore stories. I love Elmore stories.
No, I also have great respect for Elmore. And when he was the MD of Sasol One, well, actually, he was Mr. Sasol in Sasolburg at that stage. He was actually in charge of everything around there. But with his style, he didn't need to be in charge of anything to influence that thing. And that made me think to a large extent about what Anton Rupert said quite a few years ago, is that you don't need more than 10% share in a company to influence the board. And if you can't influence the board in the right direction, you shouldn't have shares in the company. Elmore was like that. He wasn't manager of a specific place, but he influenced it, for sure. And as the manager for Sastec, he was the prime client in Sasolburg. And the one story I will never forget, there was a guy by Nick de Klerk. He was quite a legend, the ammonia plant manager. And we had to solve a problem that they had very quickly and over the weekend. So Christo Steyn at that stage and Bobby Kruger, very nice guys that I worked with. They went in that weekend, they got a contractor in, they did the modifications required, and we could Sunday evening hand over the plant. So Nick didn't want to take the plant because one, the pipe jump over in the rack didn't go exactly 90 degrees to the other side and then up the rack. It went kind of skewed because they didn't have enough pipe to do the job over the weekend, and they had a deadline. And it wasn't painted yet. So that Monday morning, Nick was complaining. The message got up to Elmore because he went 5 o'clock every morning to the control room and checked up on what's happening. So he heard the rumors. And when I got in, I wanted to call me. I went up to his office and he said, Nick didn't want to take the plant. So I said to Elmore, do you want to paint or do you want to produce? He didn't answer me, but he said, thank you. And I left the office, Nick came and they took back the plant and started up the plant. Elmore also understood. And he influenced. Yeah, he was a real classic.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that they say the devil is in the details, and it's frustrating if we don't always get the details right, but then there's a bigger picture. And you need to have both the bigger picture view and the detail view. That's what I love in OTC. There's times where we have to go into the detail, get everything right, but then you say, let's stand back and see what's really important and make sure we work in the details within the bigger picture, and we don't work with details that's not going to influence the bigger picture. Do you agree with that?
That's critically important because there's always too much information and not enough time.
Yes.
So you have to sort, you have to prioritize, and you have to do. Those are the 3 things that you have to do.
Yeah, many years ago, information was difficult to get by, and that was your driving force. But now, you're right, it's just, you start to Google and you're overwhelmed with all the information. And I think the biggest skill lately is discernment, to discern what's good and what's bad, discern what's required and what's not required.
Well, the new skill that we all have to get very quickly is to be co-pilot operators.
but Charl, I'm too old to learn. Come on, I've learned my learning.
Well, if you don't learn anything today, problem is not today, the problem is you.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I can tell you, let me tell you this interesting story that maybe prove that point as well, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. When I was at school, my worst subject was English. And the worst part of English was when they expected me to write an essay. I remember I went home crying about writing an essay. I had no creativity to talk about something or to create something from new. It just didn't exist. And from there on, I was scared of English. I was scared of writing. I just wanted to go away. And at 40, I decided to homeschool my children, or even before then, while I was working on the sideline. And my subject I was the most scared of was to help my children, to teach them how to write, creative writing, report writing, anything. And I decided, let me handle it the way I've handled statistics that I hated at varsity. And whether I like it or not, let me find a process. Let me find a way that works for me, that I can understand. And I got this brilliant curriculum. And then I started to use that to teach my children. And at 40, all of a sudden, all the lights went up. And I realized something that I missed at school. And I realized, if I can learn that at 40, what can I learn at 50? What can one learn at 60, at 70? It's never too late. I even say, if you didn't do well at maths at school, it's never too late at 40 to pick up those skills. If I can learn how to write. And then eventually I gave writing classes to other children who struggled. Now I need to write reports with OTC. I'm not necessarily brilliant at that, but I don't cry anymore when someone asks me to write a report. But you can learn anything you put your mind to it if you want to.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I just take Tia. She dropped the maths in standard 6 grade, nowadays. And now she's the financial manager of the company.
Now she's correcting my invoices when I get them wrong.
And she passed her statistics at varsity when she did a master's degree with distinction.
It's never too late to learn any new skill. And no matter how old we are, we need to embrace AI and make AI work for us and not us for AI, no.
We have to learn that very quickly because all clients from now on will use it. That's my prognosis.
And if they don't, we have the competitive edge if we do. But we need to use it responsibly now.
Yes, absolutely.
Charl, what part of your life currently do you enjoy the most?
Being married to my wife, the freedom to live where I want. When we want to move, we move where we want to be. And the fact that simultaneously we can still work. That is a winning combination.
That is a lot. That's a winning mouthful. Because normally when I say I can live wherever I want, it's one place. But every time we are with you in a meeting, everyone must check in, Charl, where are you now? Charl, where are you now? So how do you make that work for you?
We are not stationary people. We are nomads, gypsies at heart. I think that's the main thing. It is so rewarding to be in a place where you want to be. We're here now because it's winter, it's nice and warm, and we swim. And the problem that we have today is that we have 3 grandchildren in Canada and 3 in Australia. Mm-hmm. So we have to also spend a lot of time outside of South Africa.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking when you said your children are far away, because it's so rewarding to have children and spend time with them. I don't have grandchildren yet, but I saw my parents with the grandchildren, and it's sad if you can't spend time with them. So you don't only travel physically, but you also travel in the air across continents.
Not only South Africa, but also transcontinental. That's correct, yeah. But we were so fortunate because all 3 of our kids worked for Sasol in Secunda at a certain stage, just before I started to retire. But we were living less than 2 kilometers apart most of the time. And now it's continents apart, yeah. That's a big difference.
You go from the one extreme to absolutely the other extreme. So how is it having 3 engineering children and in the home? What do you talk about when you get together? Did you talk Sasol, or were you able to talk about other things?
It was a little bit frustrating for non-Sasol employee engineers in a family conversation.
I can imagine, because you learn the acronyms, you learn the lingo of a company now, and then you need to.
Yeah, and the issues of the day, it's serious issues, and then it gets discussed. Yeah, and 3 engineers or 4 engineers on a table can sometimes be quite in different opinions on a certain subject and very clear on their opinions.
And everything is backed with facts. We are opposing to each other, but we have facts to support our opinions. And I find the sense of humor between engineers are often very similar, but very different to what one would get otherwise.
Yeah, but I think it happens in all these kinds of families, whether it's a sales type of family or a medical profession type of family or an engineering family, because the kids grow up with the lingo in the house, and they are slightly better equipped to move into the profession because of their background.
Mm-hmm. My dad didn't do. He did a bit of civil. He did starteleer. I know about starteleer because he did that when he did a few civil studies. But he never did engineering. But he did study a lot of technical things, and the discussions we had and the way of thinking, I think, helped me a lot when I had to go into corporate and do what I do, and it really helps. And it doesn't seem neither of my children might be interested in engineering, but I do hope that some of the thinking and some of the processes that we can help, they can transfer to whichever directions they are going to move on. Charl, as a parent, what are you most proud of?
I really think that with Tia as the manager of the household, the kids got a good grounding in life, and now they all have very good positions in various corporates all over the world. So as a parent, I think we did succeed in bringing up balanced kids.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You say they have big positions, but you talk about balance. So what do you think is the most important to claim success? What does success mean to you when you look at your children, when you looked at your own career?
It's following your dream. It is not being something or being somewhere or doing a specific thing. It is following your dream. If you can follow your dream and keep on dreaming, you are successful.
So I hear that you say I've never arrived. There's always something more to dream, more to get.
The arrive will only be the day that you put down your head for the last time. Then you will arrive. In the meantime, it's a journey, and you get 2 types of people that are totally goal-orientated and must make that goal, and you get people that is on the journey and they make most of what they can on the journey that they are on. And I think it is much more rewarding to succeed in the journey than to arrive at the destination.
Absolutely. As you talk, my dad passed away last year, very, very traumatic, very different for me. But we can't avoid that. It's such a reality. But with that, I'm so inspired to say, while I breathe, while I live, I need to live fully. I can't just do half a living anymore. I need to go full stream, which is sometimes challenging to myself as well. It's so easy to become complacent. It's so easy to just sit back and say, okay, I've arrived. There's nothing more to me in life. But I do think there's so much more that we can achieve and that we can experience and on this journey of life that we are on.
That's absolutely very true. And yesterday is gone forever and tomorrow is never here.
Oh, we need to make that. Elsie, there's a quote for us. Oh, we need to take that as a quote. I love that. Charl, have you ever made a mistake?
Yes, I have made mistakes, quite a few of them. Yes, I have.
How do one overcome that it doesn't keep you from reaching out to dreams?
Well, you get up again. And you keep on following your dream. Whether it's a mistake you make at work or whether it's a mistake you make wherever. We had a real traumatic motor vehicle accident, and I was the driver, so I was in hospital for quite a while, and the kids were asleep in the car, and two of them fell out of the car. I broke my arm seriously. A month later, I was promoted to manager of social technology engineering in Secunda. So when I started working there, my arm was in a sling. And I had to have a driver because I still couldn't drive. And I was the driver of that car that went off the road. Oh, I still don't know, but it did happen. But that doesn't stop you. You get people without legs, you get people without arms that are totally successful. There was a guy in Sasolburg called Wilmien. He was an instrument engineer, but he was wheelchair bound.
I knew him, yeah.
And that didn't stop him of going onto the plant and solving the problems on the plant. If the wheelchair got stuck, he called the first production or maintenance guy that he could see and said, "Carry me, I want to go and see that valve." That didn't stop him. So who are we to complain about a little mistake?
Charl, it reminds me when with some of my coaching clients, and I find that in my own life, I try something, it doesn't work, and then I want to give up. And I had to challenge myself after I've challenged some of my coaching clients and saying, the first time that you took a step, remember when you were 1 year old, you might not even remember when you were 1 year old, but look at a baby, and you have some grandchildren now, they're trying to walk. They take one step and they fall on their bum. And then they stand up and they try another one, they fall on their bum again. And over and over, eventually they walk, and no one remember the fall on the bums until we see that again. And what has happened from being a baby until we grow up as an adult? Because as a baby, you never say, I've tried it once and I'm never going to try it again. I fell on my bum and now I'm stuck. No, there's something that we lose sometimes as we get older, where we look at those disappointments and we allow those disappointments to keep us from, as you said, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to keep on, I'm going to try again. If we could do it then, the same with bicycle, you fall off, you get up, you ride the bicycle again. We shouldn't allow these things to keep us. So what message can you tell people who feel they want to give up after the first try, even after the second try?
Who am I to tell that guy? I don't know the exact situation, but what I can say is from my own life, you have to get strength from above, and you have to follow your dream. Those are the two things that I can say. And if your dream is to sit, well, sit.
Okay, no, that's, and then, that is, you challenged me a lot today, Charl, with a lot of my preconceived ideas as well. Who am I to say your dream is not to sit, but make sure that is the right dream to follow,
Make sure
and
it's
then
your
don't
dream.
complain about your results.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's worthwhile to follow those dreams. It's worthwhile to pursue what you believe you need to pursue, even if you have mistakes along the way.
Why do you think you have them?
Why do you think?
I'm asking you that. Yeah, you are given a job when you come to earth. God tells you that you have a job to do. And that part of that is formed in your head, what we call your dream.
Your purpose.
That's your purpose in life. And if you can match your purpose, sort out what it is, because many people don't know what their dream is.
Absolutely.
But if you can sort out what your dream is, and you can sort out what your competence is, and you can sort out what your passion is for, and you can merge those three, you will be happy forever.
Oh, Sean, and the older I get, the more I see that wisdom and how important that is. And my day job don't have to be my purpose. It can run in parallel. But yeah, to not give up. And there's some very, very deep contentment if you start to, I'm at the age where I start to taste it. I'm not there yet, but I feel I can taste it. And there's nothing that can excite me more and that can make me more excited than that.
Absolutely.
So have you reached your purpose or are you still working on it?
I don't think you will ever, well, let me put it to you this way. If your dream is fulfilled when you're still alive, you should work on your dream.
Another beautiful quote that we can use. That's great. I also see that I get this vague idea of my purpose, and as I work on it, I just find it gets refined and refined, that it gets sharper and it gets more defined as I'm growing older. And I'm also believing that it's just going to become more defined as I work on it. I haven't achieved it yet.
Yeah, it is so beautifully illustrated if you watch programs like Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent or some of those reality shows where kids of 10, 12 years come to that stage and they perform or outperform 99.99% of people because that is their God-given talent. Whether it's playing a guitar or playing a drum or dancing or whatever, or doing maths.
Yes.
So everybody has a different dream. But the sooner you find that dream to set your vision for what you have to do in life. And yes, it changes in every facet of your life, but it has to be up there all the time. That, I think, is the most important thing, is to have that thing that you strive.
And outside of engineering and the management work that you've done, what other talents do you have that you can share with us? Swimming?
Well, it's not a talent, it's actually a tool. I'm not the best swimmer there is, but it's a tool to exercise, and you have to keep a fit body to be able to have a fit mind, and you have to have a fit mind to contribute in the life that I have lived. I mean, if you look at old Freek, he's on the bike whenever he can.
Now, he told me after this project, he still has so many kilometers to be on the bike.
And you asked
Yuri,
Yuri,
with very focused.
Asked old Yuri, he said, I just have to go to my rowing machine.
No, it's impressive. So tell me an interesting hobby that you have, Charl.
I did fly for quite a while. I got my pilot's license when I was still in matric. I was not allowed to drive a car because I was 17, but I was allowed to fly a plane. Kept up my license, lost it for a while when I was working, then got it back again, and kept that up until, I can't remember, 2014, 2016, something like that. Then I had to sell the plane. So flying was a serious part of life for a while, and scuba diving. Both Tia and I are avid scuba divers, so we do a lot of whenever we can.
You go to all the extremes, huh? You go up in the air and you can go down into the ocean. I've recently looked out of the aeroplane window as we were flying from Durban to Johannesburg, and just again realized you get such a different perspective if you are in an aeroplane. You definitely see the world in a total different eyes, because a month before that, I was driving on the highway on the same road. But what I see when I'm on the highway, what I see when I'm in the aeroplane, and I can imagine what you see when you're down in the ocean, a total different perspective. It does widen your perspective of this world that we are living in.
Yeah, absolutely. And the awe of creation is, I was so fortunate that I was at a job for Cecil and had to go to Europe and the States to study some problem that we had. And I don't know how it happened, but I got booked back from New York to Paris on the Concorde. And I had the privilege of flying in the Concorde at, I can't remember, that was 65,000 feet or something like that, at Mach 2.3. And to see the curvature of the Earth from there, you can really see physically the curvature of the Earth.
So if there's anyone who thinks the Earth is not round, they need to come and talk to you. Yeah, that is incredible. Yeah, Charl, you trigger something and you say you drive at Mach 3, that speed, and that is so incredible. But the other day I just realized again, if I look at the speed the Earth spins, we are currently moving at that speed, but it doesn't feel like that. No, again, it's a matter of perspective. I understand the theory, but my mind can't really comprehend what I'm saying sometimes.
Relativity is not an easy concept.
It's not an easy concept. Charl, is there anything that you wanted me to ask you that I haven't asked you that you would like to share?
Please. I enjoy my job, and it is a real privilege. I started off when OTC started, and going strong still. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No retirement in your future, because I see the one dream after the other one. And what a privilege now that I can be your colleague and that I can learn so much from you as well, in the way you handle people, the way you handle the technical work. And it's such a privilege to work with you, and it was such a privilege to talk to you today. Thank you so much, Charl.
Thanks for me. Go well.
And with that, we are at the end of another session of OTC Unplugged. If you enjoyed that, remember there's a playlist where you can see all the other interviews I've had with the other directors of OTC. And we will have another interview with the fourth director, Chris Taljaard, very soon, that we will give you. Remember to subscribe, to like, and to tell us who else you would like to meet. Thank you. Asai.